Welcome back, bike farmers. Today we've got something a little different for you. This is actually one of my customers' bikes. They brought it in for a tune-up. The gentleman was having his, I think he said 64th birthday. He absolutely loves this bike. He's had it for a very long time. I know exactly why he loves this bike because I love it too. These Trek FX series bikes from this era are some of my very favorite. They still have rim brakes, which I much prefer to the disc brakes. It is great frame geometry, very comfortable right out of the box for most people. It is a fitness hybrid or road hybrid is how I'd categorize it, and as opposed to a comfort hybrid, which is part of the guy's issue, and we'll get there. Still, you know, there's lots of spacers here, and a little bit of rise, and some ergonomic grips. The saddle at one point was comfortable enough. It's got a suspension seat post, so there are some comfort features on this bike which makes it comfortable enough, but really allows people to give cycling a good shot, you know, so you can get out and get some exercise and that sort of thing on a bike like this. However, as we get older, most of us want things to be more upright, which is a little bit difficult to do here. Maybe a little wider tire. You know, there's just some things that we want to change. So the guy's like, hey, you know, my hands are going numb, I feel like I'm leaning over, and I hear this all the time. So one of my very favorite things to do is comfy saddle, some upright handlebars, ergonomic grips, wider tires, just a few things we can do to the bike to make it way more comfortable. So in this instance, you know, with all the parts and with a tune-up and, you know, get everything freshened up and everything, you know, he's at about 250 bucks to have this done. But a new bike replacement, you know, kind of an entry-level comfort hybrid, you know, 600 bucks, 700 bucks these days. So he comes out ahead and he gets to keep the bike that he loves. So what we're going to do with this bike, we're going to give it a tune-up, but we are also going to put on these 38mm tires. These are 35, so it's slightly wider. I really like the Michelin Protex. I think they do a great job for the price point. They're comfortable, durable, they'll get flats. They got some flat protection. I haven't had any complaints in 7 years of using these tires. I use them on pretty much every repair. This brand new Selle Royale saddle. It's not the widest thing. I told him he can go really wide if he wants, but I think he really is going to pack on some miles, so the skinnier saddle will prevent some chafing, but it still has some spring action back here, you know, gel cushioning, that sort of thing. The big thing that I offered him, that I offer everybody that they don't even really know, is some bars with sweep. Now, I think sweep is more important than rise in many cases. It does two things. It changes your hand position. So instead of being out here like this, you're more like this, which I think is more natural. You give it a little, you know, you angle them down a little bit like that instead of up like this, you know, down, and that's just a really nice way, nice natural position for your hand so that numbness goes away. And if you combine that with some ergonomic grips that kind of spread the pressure points out more in the pad of your hand than just like, you know, poking at you. It keeps your fingers from going numb, that sort of thing. So that's always very helpful. Doing those things to this bike, so comfy seat, wider tires, upright handlebars with some sweep and some new grips, ergonomic grips, you got yourself a comfort hybrid all of a sudden for a fraction of the price of a new one. So I'm really looking forward to getting into this. Oh, one other thing to consider when you're doing this with these bars, if you're going to add rise to this system, you really have to pay attention to how much length you have in your cables. This bike seems to have enough slack here. If you just go straight up rise, like 4-inch rise or something crazy, you're going to need to replace all the cables and housing. It gets very expensive, labor intensive. It's hard to pull off for cheap. When you go with sweep, that still gets you back, still gets you upright. That's actually more what you want. And the lever position doesn't change a whole lot, so you don't have to worry as much about your cables. So I can kind of eyeball it and know roughly that we probably won't run into trouble. Famous last words, but I think we're going to be okay on this build. I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Pull the wheels off and swap the tires, polish the frame a little bit, you know, do what we do. as bike farmers. So here we go. Per the usual, I'm gonna pop the wheels off here. And I've got a bit of a confession to make. This is my second take on all of this morning. I'd already done all this and recorded all this, but my microphone wasn't working. So right now I'm just using the microphone on the camera. Seems to be, I get to see the little green lines going like this on my screen, so I think I'm okay. So if there's a little bit of an audio difference from my other videos, I apologize. I think this is probably adequate. So this frame has kind of already been polished once before. It's been wiped down, but I went to the store yesterday and behold, we have new bike polish. I really don't do well with tasks. I've been needing to buy bike polish, which is just nothing more than lemony fresh furniture polish. And I always get the cheap stuff. Whatever's the cheapest seems to work better than the expensive Pledge. And this was like, I mean, it's less than half the price of Pledge. It's crazy what branding does. But anyway, I'm terrible at tasking. I'm a little ADD. And I'll go to the grocery store 3 or 4 times and forget to grab polish for my bikes because I'm only there to buy bananas or whatever. But I don't know. That's enough about me, right? So I'm actually just kind of cleaning up the fork area here just to kind of show you my process. But I like to get things wiped down somewhat and just tame and not completely filthy right out of the box when I get started on a build or a repair or a tune-up, whatever, what have you. So normally I'm wiping everything down, and I did a whole lot of ranting before. I'll spare you the ranting for today. So I got the wheels off. Things are pretty polished. I can tell already everything needs to be lubed. We'll get there, but I'm going to start with the wheels right away and get the tires swapped and go from there. Okay, here we are on the filthy bench. I don't know why, but I usually start with the rear tire, rear wheel. Tubes are good. We're going to reuse those. You know, I tell customers a lot, like, hey, you know, if they're holding air, there's no reason to replace them. That's pretty true. It's not 100% true. You know, if this, oh man, I might have just damaged something in there. Felt some resistance. If there was any kind of creasing, folds in this tube when it was brought up to pressure, and every time that wheel goes around in that crease, you get a little bit of friction and you can wear a hole out from the inside. So sometimes it does make sense to replace them, but you really don't know until you pull them out. So I told them we'd reuse these tubes. I don't know. Maybe I should replace them. Yeah, we'll just replace them. He said this one, I can tell. He had you can see in the valve, it's a newer valve stem. He said this has been replaced recently, so, and this looks like one of mine. So I think I'll just throw a new tube in the rear for him. Probably forget to charge him. You know, it was the guy's birthday. Did I mention that? Yeah, I did. So this is kind of a birthday gift to himself. I told him, I'm like, look, you gotta test ride a new bike. You know, they're making them real comfortable right out of the box. You know, they kind of already have taken care of all these things that you've been complaining about. And the new Giant Cypresses are just really great, I think. Check off all the boxes for my core customers for these general purpose comfort bikes. So I had him ride one and he really liked it, but he's like, you know, I like my old bike. I want to keep it. And he's like, man, you know, save a few $100. That's absolutely true. Both are great options. I told him I make the same amount of money either way, so I don't care which way he goes. Doesn't matter to me. incentivized to do one thing or the other. And this way I get a good YouTube video out of it. Ugh. It's got some string stuck in here. Gross. So, this was pretty greasy. So we hit it with the Dawn Power Wash first and a dirty rag. Kind of get the greasy filth knocked down out of the way. Tires are get up close and personal. I hope this audio is working out for you. Usually I have my microphone clipped right here. I mean, I do have the microphone clipped here, I just don't have the transmitter going. I've got them charging. I had a full charge on them, you know? I don't know. Kind of new to this. We're just getting this channel started. So all of your support is greatly appreciated. And you kind of know the drill, but I'm going to mention it anyway. The way we grow the channel is with viewers like you, subscribing, clicking the like button, clicking the notification bell. That way you can get excited when I drop a new video. Watch it. You know, watch till the end. You never know, there could be a big surprise, a big reveal. All of those things really help. And keep content like this where you can learn something, maybe you find it relaxing, satisfying to watch, you enjoy my ranting. But you can see how much time I spend cleaning. Really makes a big difference. Customer satisfaction in this case. Well, in every case with all these bikes. I'm either fixing bikes for a customer as service or fixing up used bikes to sell. So I end up with a customer either way. But you know, when things are dirty, people see that. That's like the first thing they notice. Okay, check for true. That's not too bad, just a couple tweaks. I'm not going to get into too much detail on the wheel truing with this one just because we've got a different purpose with this video. But I do touch them all up. Now, I like perfection. I appreciate perfection. But you also have to be realistic. Bike like this doesn't need to be perfect. You don't want to just settle with good enough. Like, this would be good enough. It's not going to rub, right? It's not going to rub. The brake's not going to rub. But I also don't want the customer to get home and spin the wheel and see a whole lot of play, you know, because you can just spin the wheel and watch the brake pads and see how far out of true this is. So you want to at least pass that test. That's about as good as we're going to get. So that one's done. Move on to the front. Same drill over here. In between the spokes. This also polishes the nipples so they start shining again. Every bike needs shiny nipples. Wipe the spokes down. And the furnace kicks on. So now you got some background noise too. Real professional. Way to go. What kind of hack job YouTube channel is this? Hey, we're all human. Now, I live downtown, and this is I'm zoned commercial, but literally this is my basement. It was an old farm building, an old barn foundation. It's all block or something, and then it's over probably about 100 years old. And over the years, they kind of built a house on top of it, and I recently built a big addition, so it's modernized up there, which is really nice. We're excited. Have some real living space, places to hang out. Used to be just this little apartment, and then this was the basement. An old man, Gilbert Kirsten, Gibb, fixed bikes here for the community from 1933 to about 1990, and then I was able to reopen it in 2017, the same spot. So this is where I got my first bike, and here I am fixing bikes in the same spot. But before all that happened, which was actually very serendipitous and kind of a neat story, I'd always think, like, man, I could just like tune up bikes for people in town in my basement or in my garage. And if I just did one bike at a time and invested back in the business, eventually I'd have a bike shop. And that's pretty much what I've done. And it's taken me, I guess we're coming up on 10 years now, maybe 12. Yeah, 10 years to put it all together. And this is what I do for a living now. Okay, we're missing a spring here. Very common to be missing springs in your skewers. Sometimes I have them laying around. Oh yeah, here we go. Nope, not in that one. I'm gonna go find one quick. Then we'll do some tires. Yeah, found one. So we just take off the end, drop it on the floor. There we go. So there's the spring. Pointy side in, folks. If they aren't missing, they're backwards. I tell you what. Okay, so tires, generally speaking, they have a tread to them, tread pattern that has an arrow, or it forms kind of an arrow. And then I like to have the skewers on the non-drive side of the bike, so I'm coming at you, which means that the skewer goes on the left. And then I like to find the valve hole right there and match that up with the logo. Make sure everything's oriented properly. Get this out of the way. So this tube is the one that he had replaced at some point. I think it came from the back, but I'm putting it on the front wheel for now. Why not? But anyway, it's still got a little bit of air in it. Show you what I'm doing here, just kind of shoving her down in there. That gives a little bit of shape to things, and you just kind of walk the bead around. Tuck it up in there so we don't pinch anything and cut it and cause ourselves problems. These Pro-Tecs are real easy to seat. I'm just going to set that there for now and go grab a tube. So here's a fresh tube. It's flat, right? Totally flat. I found one with the same sort of stem so it matches. I'm just going to give it a little bit of shape there. Just make it round. Grab my other tire. Okay. I found my valve hole already. Just kind of put my finger on it so I know I'm feeling it. Find my logo. Make sure everything's pointed the right direction. Line things up. Quite. There we go, that's pretty centered. It's good enough for me. Good enough for who it's for. Sorry, my dexterity prefers the other way here. Right-handed. Okay, so this one's not seating as easily as the last one. We'll get there, just kind of keep going around, massage it into place. If you ever get to the end here and it's like, what is going on? Start back here and squish it all into the rim as much as you can, and then you can pop it right in. I've always wanted to do a round robin tire changing tournament, like for charity or something. Get all the local bike mechanics, enthusiasts to sign up. Everybody pitches in $5 and get the same set of wheels and same set of tires and just fix flats. Go head to head. Whoever's done first wins and goes on to the next round. Be kind of fun to watch, I think. Okay, nice plump new tires. You know, this guy's not going to know what hit him. Look at that. Very shiny, new. Nice freshen up. He's going to have a new bike when he's done. What a good birthday present for oneself. I'm just dropping a couple of... Drop a lube here in the cam mechanism, the skewer. It really... I mean, that little drop of lube is still going to be in play in 10 years, you know? It's never seen lube before. You can see it's starting to rust. Knocking some of the dust off this cassette here. Going on the wrong side of things, but just while I'm thinking of it. Okay, so there's that. Back here on the bike, that was a really good time to lube all the cables. So if you push your rear derailleur in like that, you can loosen that loop. And then follow it up and just undo all your housing all the way up. So rear derailleur first, and then I take a bottle of Tri-Flow and just put a few drops along the cable and do one of these, and then I can put it back in its happy home. Run some lube up there. Look at that, slicker than snot on a doorknob, folks. Yeah, I can feel it, kind of grungy. Just cleans everything. Cleans and lubes. You can even wipe some off. Just a little dab will do you. You don't need much. That's better than new. Okay, front. I'm just kind of holding the derailleur out towards me. Oh man. At this one. And here in the front. Right up to the shifter. Spread it out. Clean it. Massage it. That's happy. Yeah, like I said, my bike needs a little bit of love, and I always like it when customers say that, because I love doing this. And I actually like care about the machines. I don't know. I just feel like, you know, there's a lot of design and labor and thought and creativity that goes into creating a bicycle. What I just did there is I just dropped a couple of drops of lube right on the brake pivots, and I let gravity kind of suck it down in there, and that reanimates that old lubricant there. Anyway, you think about all the creativity and thought that goes into designing this bike and making all of these things work, and all of the people involved. They're machines, but they came from us. You know, somebody worked hard to make this machine happen, and I respect that. You know, it's part of the whole process here. You know, we're a community. We keep these things going. All right, so yeah. Anyway, love is the answer. Pop this wheel back in. Oh man, does this bike love these 38mm tires. Look at that. Man. And that feels wonderful. We could measure that chain. Oh, the shifters aren't really working. Let's talk about that a little bit. So it's shifting down, but shifting up, there's no clicking, right? So what you can do is take some one step, right in here, stick your schnozzle in there, and just kind of flood it. And then work it. There you go. Now we're clicking. Reanimated, as I like to say. And if it's that way on the right, it's that way on the left. So you just kind of work through all of them. Now these particular shifters, they have a mechanism up top too, so we're gonna spray up top and down below. And when you work it like this, it just works all that lube in there. Okay. So that's all fresh. I'm using the one step because it's a cleaner and lubricant. And you know, this bike's been sitting, so it's got, you know, the chain is lubricated, or it was, but then all the dust that fell on this bike is stuck to the chain, right? So if I clean it, the cleaner lubricant soaks in a little bit better. And then I just take a dirty rag. This is how I clean chains. I just spray them with lube and wipe them off. You know, if somebody had a road bike, or a mountain bike, I suppose, and, you know, rode it, didn't really clean it ever, and wanted everything pulled off and cleaned, I do have an ultrasonic cleaner and can do that. Charge a fee for that. Hasn't happened yet. Nobody does. Nobody asks. Probably because this is good enough in most cases. I know my personal bikes, everything's always really clean and, you know, working well, but I'm a mechanic. I can just throw it in the stand and do that stuff and keep up with it very easily. It's uncommon, and I understand that. We are in the front. Still haven't adjusted the brakes. We'll get to that. One of my rants will be about bike computers. This one has one. These are actually pretty robust. I don't hate them as much as others, but in general I hate bike computers. The batteries go dead, and then you have to change the batteries and reprogram them, and then the magnets don't line up and nothing ever works, and customers get confused and they expect that it's an easy fix, but I gotta Google it every time, and it takes all this time and it never works, and it's super frustrating and annoying, and they're waiting and they expect it to be done right away, and blah 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 blah. It's just a customer service nightmare. So I'm like, nope, don't touch them. You can do all the Googling and figure it out, because this is going to be a persistent problem in your life, and you should have an easier solution to it than bringing it to me, because at my labor rate, it doesn't make any sense at all. It just doesn't make any sense, economic sense. Especially when you can buy a perfectly good phone mount for 20 bucks and use GPS and get much more accurate reading that creates a database for you and is way more fun, and so on and so forth. People are like, oh, I'm not high tech. It's like, yeah, well then you can change batteries and figure that out, because it's way less convenient. There's my rant. You're welcome. Just grab myself a clean white rag, and I'm just gonna go through everything here and drop it on the floor. Kind of give everything a good wipe. You know, we've already polished this with a semi-clean rag, so there's a film on everything that's a combination between furniture polish and bike lube and grit and grime. But if you take a clean dry rag and wipe it down, it polishes everything, and everything looks brand new and shiny. You can feel it in your hands. Everything becomes slick and clean. How about we swap these bars? Let's see here. So we have the computer to think about. I didn't talk to him about it. I should have. But it was his birthday, and you know, who wants to hear all that on my birthday? But here's a tiny little computer screw that I'm going to drop, and it's going to bounce into the abyss, and I'm going to spend the rest of my day looking for it. No. Okay. There goes the compressor. Okay. So a lot of times I'll cut grips off, but another way you can do it is with compressed air. And now that my compressor's full, blow them off. Kind of get your schnozzle under there. Okay, so then we want to pop our levers off. I always use a 3-way, 5mm. These handlebar swaps are very easy with these brake and shift lever combos. Mr. Reflector. I'm going to loosen both these bolts, but not all the way. I don't think we're going to need it. Well, maybe we will. Okay, I guess I'm just going to take them all off. So for that, I use my regular Allen key. You know what's kind of amazing is so far all of this, like everything I've done up until just very recently, has been basically no tools. Spoke wrench, some rags, tire lever, you know, but okay, grab the new bars, and of course make the sticker impossible. Alright, I'm going to spend some time cleaning that. I don't know what that adhesive was, but that was way more difficult than it needed to be. Okay. Start to see things taking shape now. So I'm going to leave these loose for a minute while we get our levers on the bars. Yep, we're good. No binding, no nothing. Now it's really taking shape. I like to have the gap, the clamp here, the gap the same on the top and the bottom. Switch tools. Okay. Good to go there. Grips go on with cheapo hairspray. This is Suave Max Hold Aquanet. Again, I think the cheap stuff is actually better for this purpose. And I'm just giving it a good guess on the angle of these grips. Yeah, everybody's hands are a little different. You know, we're all ergonomically slightly different than one another, so you never know if you're really gonna get it right. Okay, we'll get this computer put back on. This is where I drop screws and drive myself crazy every single time. I don't know. Let's see what happens here. Okay. Reflector. So this bar is a little skinnier than the other one, so I might need shims. If I get right up next to the clamp, it seems to be okay. There's that. Tighten this down a little bit more for good measure. So there's the cockpit, the new cockpit. You see how that brings everything back? Can we see? I mean, we went from out here-ish, yeah, so I don't know the best way to show you that, but like from out here to back here makes all the difference in the world. And okay, so we're getting a little bit of binding here. It's not bad. I don't think it's so bad that we have to do something about it. Anyway, what I was going to say, worst case scenario is we could change the stem and make it a little bit shorter, put a riser stem, adjustable stem. So I think we're okay. This is, it's not an ideal cable length. Like I wouldn't build it this way. I would build it with a little more wiggle room. But I think it's good enough. I think we can get away with it. And lever angles and that kind of thing, also a personal preference, but much easier to do when the bike's on the ground at the end. I'm giving it a good guess. So there you have it, the new bars. Totally transforms the feel, ride, comfort, everything on this bike. I'm gonna adjust the brakes quick. Mostly speaking here, the only adjustment needed is to pull a little bit of cable through, just tighten them a little bit. I get access to my cable, which was tucked neatly behind the spring. Loosen the anchor, pull some cable through, feel it a bit more. There we go. I don't know how to describe what I consider to be an acceptable amount of pull. But then this brake is a little off center, so I'm going to adjust the springs, kind of tighten one side and loosen the other to bring the whole system one way or the other. You want each side of the brake pulling even. I can probably show you a little better in the front. See how it's only pulling from one side? We'll have to change that. Might have something to do with this stupid computer wire. Yep. Nothing but problems. Computers. Should I go back to pen and paper? Paper maps. And a ruler. Make sure that they're about even. So you can see how it's only pulling from one side. You know, I got this fancy apron with all these pockets, and I never put my tools in the pockets I should. Then I would have them, and I wouldn't have to walk in front of the camera all the time. Maybe I'll get used to that. Maybe it'll transform the way I do things around the shop. So I'm adding to one side, and now you can see. I just added a little tension to that side and made it way more better. So quick check of the headset. You can spin the front wheel, slam on your front brake, and I just heard it. It's definitely a loose headset. And then if you take your handlebars and rock them back and forth, I can feel it in there. So, to adjust the headset, grab my 5mm, and I'm going to loosen. I'm going to loosen the stem clamping bolts here. Get those loosened. And then this is the preload bolt, and this bolt up here will squish the whole system together. Just tighten that a little bit. Still a little loose. Give it a little more. Oh, perfect. Very nice. And then you can tighten the stem clamping bolts down, and that holds the whole system in place until everything settles once again. So that's why tune-ups are important, regular maintenance, because we make little adjustments like that. And now the preload is reset. So, you know, this is a nice robust headset system. The threadless headset systems are way better, I think. But everything compresses, you know, from new. All of there's, you know, you can see all these spacers, and there's bearings, and there's races, and there's cups, and there's this, and there's that. And over time, as this bike is ridden and all these vibrations, everything compresses, the metal compresses, everything settles. And so the system becomes loose eventually. And with that first tune-up, it gets buttoned up a little bit, and then the second tune-up, it gets set in place where it's just not going to move anymore. And if the preload is set right, and things are lubricated well and whatever, then, you know, that bearing system won't wear out it quite as fast. Okay, I'm going to move you back to the drivetrain, and we'll run through that and just check the shifting quick. Back here, I'm in the middle gear, and you see I'm not doing anything, and it's ghost shifting on me, and, you know, something's off. We know everything's cleaned and lubricated, so I'm going to start here in the low. And yeah, there's some gunk stuck in here. String. Okay, so we shift down one, and we hear some clicking. I think what's happening here is this cable has stretched a little bit, so things are just a little loose. I think it's over shifting or under shifting or whatever you want to say. Anyway, cable's loose. So to make that adjustment, we just turn this barrel out, which is lefty loosey, just a turn and a half. Okay, so we'll go back up there, one down. Nothing happens, so it's too tight now. So maybe it was too tight from the beginning. So I'm gonna turn this in. I mean, that's like 2 turns. And now it's in that gear, nice and easy. So here we go, low gear. We're stepping down. Nice and quiet. You know, 2 links and it's in gear. That's a perfect adjustment. Okay, so here we are in the low gear, and if I press the lever, you can see the derailleur's moving, and it's starting to rub on the spoke protector. That's because the high limit isn't just quite exactly perfect, or the low limit, I'm sorry. So these 2 screws back here, one's with an L and one's with an H. This is actually your low gear, even though it's on the high side of things, backwards. But anyway, I'm just going to turn it in just a smidge. That might have even been too much. Nope, just right. And now if I press my lever, things are rock solid there. Nothing's moving. That's set. Down here, making a little bit of noise. I'm going to turn this one in too, just a smidge. Maybe a little more. Ooh, made it worse. Let's back that off. So, now in the front, moving things over here, I am in high gear here, and the chain is rubbing on the inside of the outer cage. So that means that this cable, the front shift cable, is a little loose. We want to tighten the cable, and that'll pull this whole system out just a little bit. So to do that, it's lefty loosen on the barrel adjuster. I don't know, up here on the shifter, right here. You can see my hand. Whee! That's where I'm making that adjustment. It's the same as this, but it's up in the shifter. There's just not a real good place to put a barrel adjuster back here. So now it's not rubbing, and we'll check the other side. So these are the two extremes, right? It's when you're in the low gear, it's going to rub on the inner part of this inner cage, and it's just rubbing a tiny bit. So I just turned the barrel adjuster in, I don't know, half a turn. Just some fine tuning. Pretty good. The brake looks great. Man, this bike is tuned and new. Yeah, we're good. Time for a new saddle. So this is all kind of a mess. Look at that. I mean, the reflector came off. So what happened is somebody got really creative and then put this reflector on the adjuster here for the suspension seat post. We lost the screw, and this is all unscrewed. It's all a mess. I'm gonna pull some seat post out and clamp it lower so we can see what's actually going on. So I don't often have good luck with this. Okay, so that threaded right back on. So you don't want this cranked down super tight, but you don't want it loose either. So that's okay. Shockingly, this bag looks to be installed properly. They hardly ever are, except that it wasn't looped around there. But we're putting on a new saddle anyway. God, some yucky filth in there. So we'll put that bag back on when we get the new saddle on. Okay, I'm gonna pull this off. I'm gonna level things a little bit here and get this seat position. I'm using the shelves in the background to kind of help me see what's level right here. Yeah, you can kind of, you know, what's parallel, and we can get the new saddle. It's a good guess. Sometimes it's probably best to just do this with the bike on the ground so you know what truly is level and what isn't. I just find it harder to film on the ground, I guess. I like having the bike in the stand when I'm working on it. You know, everything stays put. Okay. That old saddle, man. I feel bad for the ass that had to endure that. Woo! Okay, brand new one here. Down to Electric Avenue. Oh boy. Start over. Everything's very slippery. Yeah. Struggle bus. And give myself a little more breathing room here. A couple threads. Hopefully that helps. Get the rails set in the lower part of the clamp, and then try to finesse that upper. Then I'm curling my index finger. Does that look pretty flat? It does, doesn't it? And then I set it right in the middle of the rails. Then if he says he wants it forward or back, we have, you know, a centimeter or so of adjustment. And that can make a difference. Doesn't seem like much, but it is. Yeah. Right? And then this should always be Guten tight. It's German for max torque. Get that one more. Strip it out. I have the bike on the ground for my final setup check. Oh yeah, we gotta put the guy's bag back on. Not very exciting. But it's just a matter of getting the straps under those rails, or actually over the rails, properly, and then figuring out what to do underneath it to keep it from flopping around. Get that cinched up good so we don't run into the same problems we had before. Give this bag some sag. There. So that's good. I lubed the seat post long ago already. I'm just going to drop some lube in the cam mechanism here. Needs to be tightened. Actually, this one has an interface on this side for a 5mm Allen key. I always like that. And then get on the bike. This, I'm checking to make sure everything's in line. You know, I do like having a little downward angle to my bars, my swept bars, but not this much. Now I'm a few inches taller than the customer, so I'm going to kind of think about that, but you know, what's comfortable to me might not be for the customer, the owner of the bike. But I just angled them back up a little bit. I'm going to do the same with these levers. You want them even, you know, just so it doesn't feel funny when you're rolling down the road, trying to loosen my load. Look at that. Okay, that front brake is not pulling evenly. I'm gonna back things off. Check the rear one. Still good. Man, I'm calling it done. I think it's really great. I really like how it turned out. Alright, bike farmers. That's it for this one. I am absolutely thrilled at how this turned out. a true comfort bike conversion. I mean, this has it all. The wide tires, upright handlebars, ergonomic grips, and a comfy saddle. That's all you need to convert any bike from, I would say any bike from 1983 up until, I mean, I don't know, maybe 2010, something like that. Yeah, there's a really big sweet spot in bikes that like to be converted like this. So I'm very, very pleased with how this went. I think we're going to have a very excited customer when he comes to pick this up later today. And thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe. Please like the video. Let the algorithm know that you want to see more of this, and click that notification bell, and then you definitely will be told when there's more. I'm going to do a couple more of these comfort bike conversions. You know, the used bikes, I call them the drumlins. Around here we have the Glacial Drumlin State Trail, and just like the word drumlin, I actually built a road bike. It's over this one over here, if you can see it. And that's the brand I put on it. I built my own frame and called it a drumlin. But anyway, just around the shop, I'm like, this is a drumlin conversion, and that's when I take a mid-90s mountain bike or a hybrid like this and do the upright handlebars and comfy saddle and so on, and convert them. This is my jam. This is what we do around here. You know, bikes, regular bikes for regular people, practical bikes for practical people. Just really good, sensible bikes. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.